Hey guys, it's Kesara, and today I'm going to be doing my January TBR. So obviously, it's already almost halfway through January, and I've already posted a reading vlog. I have not been the best at posting videos for the last, I want to say 2 months or so. That's because I've been super busy, especially these past couple of weeks. So I haven't gotten around to finding time to actually film this video. So I apologize for this being late, but I did have this planned out before January started. So some of these books might be a little bit familiar from what I already posted in my reading vlog part 1. If you missed that, I will link that up in the cards. You should definitely check it out. But I'm doing my TBRs a little bit differently this year than I did last year. So I'm actually going back to kind of how I did my TBRs in 2019, because last year I was trying to make myself more of a mood reader by doing like themed months where I would just pick a month, and that month I'd read only sci-fi, or at least mostly sci-fi, and the next month I would read mostly horror or something like that. And it didn't fully work because some of the months I did really good. Like my sci-fi month I did really good, my fantasy month I did really good, my middle grade month I did really good. Other months I either was not in the mood to read at all because of what the theme was. So May was supposed to be YA. I don't think I read a single YA book in May, or I just got sick of it like halfway through the month. Like in October I started reading like creepy books, but about halfway through I was just kind of like, I'm kind of done with these books in October. So I'm going back to more of the way I did things in 2019, where I pick one book by each genre per month that I want to read in that month. And that way, like if I'm in the mood to read sci-fi, then I have the sci-fi book that I had been planning to read this month that I'll pick up. If I'm in the mood to read horror, then I'll pick up the horror book that I had planned to read this month. So I have multiple options of what I can pick, and I'm also reducing the total number of books per TBR. So I'm going to be doing only 8 books per month. Last year it was 12 books per month. The year before I didn't have a number. I could do unlimited amounts. I never quite got to all of the books on my TBR. And while typically I do average more than 8 books a month, I think 8 books is a good amount that I'm not trying to push myself to read too much, while at the same time, these are books that I just want to prioritize, and I know I'll get to these, but I'm not going to limit myself to 8. So I could potentially read more than those 8 books a month, but it's going to be those 8 books. Of those 8 books, the type of books that I'm going to read, I'm always going to have at least 1 classic, 1 sci-fi, and then 1 mystery or thriller novel per month. And then I want to have 1 YA or middle grade, and then 3 fantasy novels. So that's 7 books. For the 8th book, it's gonna be a wild card. So basically anything. It could be nonfiction, it could be romance, it could be contemporary, it could be historical fiction, like literally anything. Let's go ahead and get into the books that I'm planning to read in January, or have already started reading / read. For my classic in January, I'm reading Emma by Jane Austen. One of my goals last year was to read all of Jane Austen's books, which I got to October and realized I hadn't read any of her new books. So I read Northanger Abbey, and I really loved Northanger Abbey a lot more than I was expecting to. So I decided, even though I only read 1 of her books last year, I'm going to try and read the rest of her books this year, because I've read 3 of her books so far, and she only has like 7. Emma would actually make 4 books. So I only have a few left. That's why I decided to pick up Emma. Not gonna lie, I already finished this. If you want to know what I thought about it, you can go ahead and check out my reading vlog, or you can wait till my reading wrap up at the end of the month. But I love Jane Austen, really do, and I can't wait to get to the rest of her works. For my sci-fi this month, I've decided that I'm gonna pick up Death's End by Cixin Liu. I am super excited about this because during my sci-fi September, my favorite book, or pretty much my favorite sci-fi book that I read that month, was The Dark Forest, which is the 2nd book in the Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy. Death's End is the 3rd book, and the ending of The Dark Forest just made me so excited for Death's End. So I think it's finally time that I pick this up. I'm really excited for this. Cixin Liu has a way of structuring books that I don't really know what's going on, but it's done in a very mysterious way. It makes me super intrigued as to what's gonna happen, and I cannot wait for the finale of this trilogy because I have no idea what's coming. Literally no idea, but that's okay. I'm just super excited to get there. So for my thriller this month, I decided to pick up Snowblind by Ragnar Jonasson. So this is actually going to be my pick for the month for the Diversathon Readathon as well, which is a year-long readathon that I'm participating in. I will have more information about it in a different video, and I'll put some links down below if you guys are interested in participating. For the month of January, the prompt is to pick a book that is set in Iceland, and I decided to go with this one because I wanted to pick something that wasn't trying too hard to be diverse, because I feel like quite a few of mine are kind of like that, since the majority of my books that I'm picking for this readathon are contemporaries that are kind of like diverse voices. But this one is just a straight up thriller, which I've actually already started this one. I started the audiobook, and the audiobook so far is fantastic. I really love love the audiobook narrator and the way the book is structured. For some reason, it's reminding me a little bit, just a teensy bit, of Anxious People by Frederick Bachman, even though that's like a contemporary, like almost feel good, not really, but sort of. And this is most definitely a thriller, but it's giving me those vibes. So I really like that aspect of it as well. And I'm excited to see where this is going. For my YA book, I decided to pick up Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. So this is the book that I've been meaning to pick up for a while now. I think I first heard of it back in October, and I've been wanting to pick it up since then because I have not heard anything bad about this book. Like, I've only heard good things, which makes me really, really excited for it. I don't know too much about it other than it's a YA fantasy, but I kind of like to go into my YA fantasies a little bit blind. But I think there's something to do with a secret society, maybe? And I mean, this just makes me intrigued. Like, whatever is happening with her arms, I'm just so excited for it, and hopefully I can get to this very, very soon. I almost picked it up this week, but I have the audiobook coming next week, and if I have the ability to switch between the audio and the physical book, I want to be able to do that. So I have it on hold at my library. I should be getting it next week, so hopefully I can get to this as early as next week, and I can't wait for it. This is one of the few YAs that I'm just kind of like, I actually really want to read this book. I'm really excited for this, and hopefully it's as good as everyone else seems to think it is. So for my wild card, I'm also going with the fantasy book, but I'm really more going for it for the romance aspect because it won the Goodreads Choice Awards for Best Romance of 2020, and that's From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. If you saw my vlog, yes, I've already finished it, and yes, I've already finished the sequel. I know, I don't know what's wrong with me, but it was so good. Like, this is like the ultimate guilty pleasure read for me, and I'm really excited to read the next book in this series as well. This is a vampire romance novel. Don't look at me that way. Like, it's not that kind of vampire romance novel. It definitely has more of a high fantasy feel to it than I was expecting. Like, think along the lines of Folk of the Air trilogy by Holly Black or Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. Like, even though it's vampires, not fairies, like, it has that sort of feel to it rather than a more contemporary vampire feel that you get from most vampire novels. Also, like, it took me the longest while to figure out this was a vampire novel. Like, the longest while. But I decided to pick this one up specifically because I usually start my years off with romance. I don't know why. It's just an easy way to get into reading at the beginning of the month, especially since usually in January, I have a lot of other books that are more outside my comfort zone. So I like to start off in my comfort zone. So that's why I decided to go for this one. And I'm really glad that I did. Like, it really got me reading, even when I was just super busy this past week. So I'm really happy about that. And this is just such a great guilty pleasure novel that I definitely recommend. And now for my 3 fantasy books. The first one that I'm definitely going to be getting to this month is Wild Seed by Octavia E. Butler. So I couldn't decide if this is sci-fi or fantasy, but it's about gods, so I'm going with fantasy. I might change that later on in the series, but to start out with, I'm going to go with fantasy. This is the first book in the Patternist series, and from what I understand, it's kind of like a love story between ancient gods, but the entire series spans like pretty much all of time or something like that. I'm really intrigued by the concept of this, and of course it's Octavia E. Butler, who is just such a prolific author. I have not read a book by her that I haven't liked, so I'm really excited to get to this, and hopefully I'll end up loving it as much as I think that I will. The next one I have is a little out there for me. It's not typically the type of book that I read. Also is sort of, and that's The Invisible Library by Genevieve Cogman. So this is kind of like a historical fantasy slash contemporary fantasy slash, I don't know, like urban fantasy, but it's in a magical library that has portals to other worlds or alternate realities, which is just like so up my alley. So of course, magical library, absolutely love that. Alternate realities, portals to other worlds, absolutely love that. And it also seems to be recommended to a lot of people who like books similar to like The Starless Sea and 10,000 Doors of January and those types of books, which I loved both of those so much. So I feel like I could potentially really, really love this. Now the ratings on Goodreads make me hesitate just a teensy bit. I feel like this is the type of month that I could kind of experiment a little bit and see if I like things that maybe I don't think I'm gonna like. And of course, this one has a concept that I should really, really love. So I'm hoping that I'm really gonna love this, but I don't know yet. We'll see. It is a whole series though. So if I do love it, then I have a new series that I could just dive into. So I'm hoping that I'm gonna love it so much that I could just read the other books in this series as well. And lastly, the book that I'm absolutely the most excited for and my biggest priority in January. And I know I said this in November and December, but I will 100% be getting to it in January. potentially even by the end of this week, I will be getting to this book. And I'm super excited for it. And that's The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. I know I've been saying it forever, but it is finally time for the finale of the Poppy War trilogy. And I can't wait. It's one of my favorite new grimdark fantasy series, and I just need to read it. This is a fantastic fantasy series that's inspired by Chinese history and the Sino-Japanese War, and it is dark, it's emotional, and I absolutely love these characters, and I cannot wait to see where it all ends up. Also, this is an absolutely gorgeous book. Like, do you see this? I love the back. I think this is the one time where I might actually like the back of the book more than the front of the book. I know that's weird, but I actually really, really love that. Anyways, I'm rambling now. Like, there's nothing else I have to say about this other than it's gonna be fantastic and I can't wait. So that is all I have for you guys. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these, because I would love to discuss with you guys. I post videos on Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so consider subscribing. And if you'd like to be notified as soon as I upload, you can click that little bell icon. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.